Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of the Alignment Podcast. I'm so grateful you're tuning in. And today I have the honor of introducing to you, for those who don't know already, the amazing Laurel Hoover. And we go way back. So we're going to dive right in. Welcome, Laurel. It's been so good to reconnect with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
No, likewise, appreciate you being here. And we've had some great pre-conversations. I want to start with the question I love to ask guests, and it's a simple one. What does alignment mean to you?
In flow with source energy.
Beautiful. Yeah, love that. That's perfect. So yes, that's the intent of this show, to support others in doing exactly that, remembering together and recognizing all the fun ways we get out of alignment so we can, overcome it, release it, and all that good stuff. So I love the fact that you are also helping others get in alignment with that source energy in a way that resonates so well from not just the, let's say, metaphysical or mental aspect, but also the body. And doing it in some fascinating ways. We had these wonderful conversations. So I'd love to start there with the work you're doing with the body and getting us in harmony with that source energy in the ways that are available. Could you speak to that and kind of maybe what led you on that journey? Because I don't think I asked that question yet. What got you on that path?
Oh, sure. So I currently have 2, shall we say, projects that I'm offering. And if you want me to begin with Skin Love,
Yeah.
that began 17, 18 years ago now. And I was out of my religion from childhood for 10 years, an atheist. And one day I experienced something that was not of this dimension that shook me awake.
Would
And
you mind telling my audience would love to hear what that is specifically, if, just for a moment, give them an indication if you're okay with it.
I'm only publicly talking about it now
Okay.
because I think that it's happening to a lot of people. And the more of us that talk about it, the more comfortable others will be talking about their experiences. Now, that said, I also don't have the benefit of having heard what other people have to say about it. So I only know what my experience was, and I don't know how to put it into terms that might be common knowledge for other people that have experienced this kind of thing on the regular. So in my best short description, I was in my bed. It was 6 a.m. I woke up. I saw a light emanating from my closet and thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, or it was the neighbor's floodlight. And I set my alarm so I didn't oversleep. And I closed my eyes and I felt a whoosh of energy approach me that felt like a person. And you can feel when a person is near you. And this person held his palm over my forehead and I could not move. And I saw that my alarm system on the wall had not been triggered. So I knew that it was real and that it was not an actual physical human. And I softened into the experience and I heard 2 notes toggling back and forth in my ear very quickly. And my forehead got extremely hot. And I had a knowingness when whatever it was happening, when it was complete. And the being lifted up and floated out through the corner between the wall and the ceiling. And I sat up and I was sobbing with gratitude. And then I started thinking and I freaked out and started sobbing from fear. And I went into the bathroom mirror and my forehead was blazing red, blazing hot. And my mother had recently begun to research shamanism. And we had not had these kinds of spiritual conversations yet. And I thought, "Oh, I can actually call my mom." And she said it sounded like a spirit guide opened my third eye. And I didn't know what that was. That was foreign language to me. And my friend was dating a psychic who was very professional and very talented. And I didn't know that at the time that he was talented. I just accepted that he was a psychic and I didn't really assign an opinion to it because I liked him as a person. In short, he sent his spirit guide over to help my spirit guide acclimate. And at the time, half of me thought, this is just what crazy people do. This is not something that I do. And I was on the phone with him and asked when he was coming. And I felt a heat at my right shoulder that felt like an 7 or 8 foot tall energy. And Don said, he's there. He's at your right shoulder. And I said, yes, he is. And we went for a run because that's how I process. And I could feel them drafting beside me, behind me, in front of me, switching positions. And I ran the equivalent of a mile. Um, and then there was a cut through that was through the woods, that was a dirt road. And I just had one more sprint to get out because I was so overwhelmed with what was going on. And I was crying the entire time. And as I'm running down the path, the quality of the air changed. It almost had a viscosity of something on the electromagnetic scale that I've never experienced. I don't have a vocabulary for it, but it was as different as being underwater is to being in the air. But it was the opposite of water. It was on the other side of it was a higher viscosity than air, if that makes any sense. And there were more light beings on both sides than there were trees. And that's when I realized that every single crevice and crack and every piece of everything is filled with life force in all forms. And it's just the frequency of us that allows us to see what it is that we see. And that everything is here all the time. It's always here. And just like that, it just whoosh, it was gone. And it drastically changed the course of my life. And it was that same week or that same month that I was introduced to the concept of topical plant medicines. And fast forward, I went back to school for plant medicine at Cornell. They had the only plant medicine program at the time that was comprehensive as far as including indigenous and folk medicines. And then I apprenticed to a Native American medicine keeper and just dove into it. And now I understand how to regenerate skin with botanical oils, but then also the energetics that they bring because we're quantum beings. We're both particle and wave. So our bodies know what to do with the chemical that we apply to the skin, but our being knows what to do with the wave form. And indigenous call it plant spirit medicine, but quantum physics calls it entrainment. And we can measure this now. So when we heal with botanical oils, we get two pieces of medicine. We get chemical and we get emotional. And it's the same two sides, the law of polarity, two sides of one spectrum. So if your skin needs something, it's because you emotionally need something. Because we are condensed energy, we're compressed energy. That is what matter is. And we know this. And we can do this in a laboratory. We can compress energy into matter and we can expand matter into energy. And so working with botanical allies led me down the path to then study stone medicine and to learn the energetics. So physical stone medicine would be something like crushed calcium as Tums or milk of magnesia, is magnesium. Pepto-Bismol is bismuth crushed up. Then the energetics of the stone is something that is so beautiful. They can call to you and they can energetically fill in the piece of you emotionally that you think has either been lost, stolen, or given away at some point on your journey. And they fill it in the moment, and your body has the opportunity to memorize the feeling and work with that feeling that's the gift from the stone. And so plants can do the same thing. And it's just been, I'm a newbie. I'm only 17 years into this journey, and it's just profound. I learn every single day.
So beautiful, sister. Thank you for sharing all of that. Um, it feels so divine and loving and intelligent and um, I don't know if the word is providence or what, but there's like listening to you and hearing it is such a great reminder of what is emerging, of the what life is bringing us, and you being uh, a mouthpiece for that. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like the earth has been telling me recently to be a steward of the earth by starting with the body. And by starting with that heart and getting in alignment and changing the world by changing the relationship with the body, energy, and our cycle, finding our place in it and using the tools you're talking about and finding that harmony. So really appreciate you doing the work you're doing, listening to the call, receiving that blessing from the guides who are here ushering in that wonderful path, clearing blocks for our soul family, right? So we can step into who we're here to be. So loving the way you're showing up is so awesome. Uh, if I had an applause button, maybe the post editing, hit the applause because I'm excited what you're bringing.
Well,
So let's
right
talk.
back at you.
Let's talk about
Mhm.
so what have you seen benefits wise doing this work and with your new company, and maybe talk about a little bit of how it works, the skin love technology you've brought forward. If I said that right, I can't remember.
It was beautiful. It was perfect. I teach people, I have 4 pillars. And to regenerate the skin, you also have to build up the muscle underneath because you can't have tight skin without tight muscle. So the act of self-love, of bringing various aspects together in what I offer, has been really rewarding. So the things that people do know to do are drink enough water, structured water is best,
Mm.
sleep, and eat clean. Don't smoke and drink, and or do, but do in moderation. And what I teach are the things that people really aren't that familiar with, which is in this culture, we are catching on in that meditation can bring you into chemical alignment within your body to support life. So one of the 4 pillars is meditation. And you learn how to run energy through your body intentionally through your meridians to heal yourself, specifically the skin. And it works in the same way as acupuncture. Well, the other piece of the meditation is you learn mindfulness. And as we know, 30 days of mindfulness meditation, Harvard studies and MRIs show that it can alter permanently until you reintroduce trauma, brain chemistry from a steady state of anxiety to a steady state of neutrality. Well, if you add in heart brain coherence, which is cohering the electromagnetic wave frequency of the heart with the brain, thoughts are electric, emotions are electromagnetic. When you align those frequencies through feeling gratitude, which is 500 hertz, it sends zero point 0.1 hertz of energy from the heart to the brain, and your waves automatically come into coherence. And when that happens, it stimulates your hypothalamus gland to produce 1,300 biochemical reactions that flood your system and heal you with anti-aging hormones for 6 to 8 hours. So we know the science of this. Nothing I'm teaching is not proven by science. These are things that we understand. There's no guesswork here. And what I've done is I've curated a journey for the person with a meditation masterclass that's self-guided so that you can teach yourself at your own pace very easily just by listening to the meditations. By the end of the 90 days, you'll know how to come into coherence, drop in almost instantly. You'll know how to move energy through your body intentionally. You'll understand where your meridians are and how to run energy through them. And so the other pieces of it are face yoga, which builds up the muscle. And then the botanical oils regenerate at the chemical level and the energetic level. Because when you introduce the energetics into your environment, your body recognizes them. And then the one aspect that I'm finding people are having tremendous benefit from is the face massage. And the fascia is basically the Akashic record of the body. And when you release your fascia through vigorous massage, Not only does it tell your skin where to produce more collagen because it's not able to withstand the soreness of the complexity of the massage, but it also releases the way that the fascia has been knotted up and used for years. And your expression is a reflection of your emotional state. So all of your traumas and how you've expressed yourself in the past, there's a record of it in the fascia of your face. And this is something that I stumbled across. I did not know this. And the more that I learn about people that have Kundalini awakenings, which you can speak more to that, I've not experienced that myself yet. It is something that I look forward to in this life or the next. Um, the the fascia resets. It's one of the major systems in the body that resets, apart from the nervous system, the most drastically when a Kundalini awakening occurs. And what I'm finding with my clients, especially the ones that are in their 60s and 70s, have large emotional releases when they're massaging their face with these botanical oils. So it's not just the act of self love. There is a physicality that is unlocking these crystallized traumas. And it's just been, I I can't even express how rewarding it is for these women to open up to me and men, but mostly women right now that I'm working with, to just open up and all of a sudden they feel safe and sturdy and secure. Something about it is rooting them and allowing them to be able to talk about whatever the trauma was from a distance. They don't identify with it anymore. And I don't know if that, I'm still learning. I don't know if that's because it's no longer locked in as part of their body or that they're not identifying with their body as much, or I haven't learned that piece. And I learn as much from my clients, I think, as they learn from what's flowing through me.
May I speak to that part?
Mm.
So, from my experience with somehow I came into this life to deal with trauma, as many of us have, and from what I've seen happens, it sounds very similar, like the way you're assisting others to heal the traumas, let's just say, is removing the blocks, dissolving, transmuting, what have you. What often happens from what I've seen is that memory and the emotional charge around it changes. And sometimes it can create distance, right? Can even move it. So if you're visually looking at the memory, for example, it becomes less colorful. You become less entangled in it, less involved in it, and it kind of moves. And sometimes it transforms. It'll literally transform into something beautiful and that brings pleasure instead of that negative emotional charge. So that's been my experience with working with trauma in I guess, a multi-dimensional subconscious way, right? So it sounds like the work you're doing is doing it maybe different modalities to produce the same results. Would that make sense?
Yes. And when something's true, it's true everywhere. I resonated with
Yeah.
everything you just said.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So that's so beautiful that. So I want to talk about the language you used was new to me. And so um, simple and insightful that makes me realize it's just genius. It's just the plain reality or truth, if you want to call it that, whatever that means. But you use the word for like um, the medicines and the things we've been given that you're working with in what we usually call pharmaceutical. You kind of help explain it in a way I had never heard it explained before. I was like, whoa. So would you speak to that, like how you're working in these realms with these medicines? And I want to also just say right before you do that, for example, I remember people quoting the Bible as, the seeded fruits as our food and the plants as our medicine, the herbs as our medicine, right? And the work you're doing, I feel like aligns with that on the medicine side, especially. But will you speak to the language you use when you're um, defining where they all come from? I just love the way you explain this.
Oh, right. So I think first it's important to know that all pharmaceuticals are isolated chemicals that originated in either a plant or a stone. And when you have a plant, it's producing two types of chemicals, two families of chemicals. Primary metabolites. Metabolite is a chemical or a compound. You can interchange those three words. In this case, run the systems of the plant for it to breathe and do whatever it needs to do, uptake water, reproduce, etc. Then there's secondary metabolites or compounds or chemicals, and that is its chemical language. It's how it speaks. And plants speak in three ways. So the chemical language can be very complex. They can send full sentences to each other. They can say, hey, scoot your roots over, or hey, I can't quite see through the canopy. And another plant can say, that's because you're not strong enough yet. You don't need enough light. If you struggle for the light, then you'll get stronger, and then you'll eventually get. They can speak to each other and coordinate.
Hmm.
And they can even say dangers. Cut grass, for instance. That chemical, the smell of cut grass, is a warning that there's danger nearby. And all other nature beings can smell that. It's a terpenoid. They can smell that and they know that there's danger. Plants also speak to each other electromagnetically, and they can fill in the gaps electromagnetically for missing nutrients in neighboring plants. We experience that electromagnetic current as emotion or thoughts. And I can give an example later if you want to know more about that. So, because plants offer all these compounds in a family, it rounds out the side effects for the most part. When you isolate it, you then form a synthetic version or partially synthetic version, and that can be patented because you can't patent life. And in this case, the chemical is the life. So pharmaceuticals are an isolated compound from a plant. And it does have side effects because it doesn't have the mutability of the family of compounds that it was originated from. And you also don't get the energetics of the medicine when you take a pharmaceutical. And it has a lower frequency because it is synthetic. And that way your body can recognize it in one way and it can utilize it to an extent, but it doesn't have the help of the family, and it doesn't have the help or the guidance of the waveform that was supposed to come with that chemical. So it is slightly foreign. And so we do have bad effects and addictions. So when you apply topical plant medicine, for instance, if you get a retin-A cream or tretinoin cream, if you have acne, you get a sunburn. Why? Because when you go to the A family in nature, take a carrot. Carrot seed oil has a natural SPF of 30 because the family takes care of its own. The law of polarity. If there's a side effect, the antidote is with it. And when you go to the source, the law of polarity, because life is holographic, you can go down to the atom, as below, so above. Everything is there in one place. When you extract something and create a synthetic version, you have a Frankenstein situation. And there's nothing wrong with that. I absolutely love allopathic medicine because if you or I or a family member or a loved one is in a wreck, they can put us back together. Homeopathics can't do that. Jesus could. There are a few people that have walked the earth as examples of what the full manifestation of what we can become. They have shown us. So we do have that ability. We just haven't evolved there on the regular yet. And we need allopathy to fill in the gaps so that we can live long enough to figure it out. So we've done a good job of lengthening our lives and having the opportunity of more years to perhaps figure that out in this lifetime.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love the way you explain that. And what dawns on me is to ask the question, when you received whatever that opening was that a turning point in your interest in science? Because you have a great ability to recognize and articulate the patterns, which also gives me the impression you had a great capacity to absorb the the information in the patterns. So did that seem like a turning point for you?
Yes, and I didn't even know that I was interested in science before that. So your audience might know we went to grammar school together and a little bit of high school. And
Yeah,
I don't
thank
know
you.
if you know, I didn't do so well in school. I was a
No,
little
I didn't
distracted.
know that. That's so cool.
I did
So
in
thank you for
college.
mentioning that. Yes, we did go to school together, and I didn't know you had some challenges. I guess you're saying challenges in high school and college.
Not college, but
Oh,
high school, I didn't apply myself. And I just didn't even know that I was interested in science at the time. But I was so thirsty to understand what had happened to me that I couldn't stop reading. And I just dove into what I now know as biophysics. I was introduced to the book by Dr. Bruce Lipton that's called Biology of Belief. And I was hooked. And I've been studying physics, biophysics, quantum physics ever since. And epigenetics is the precursor to biophysics. What we're capable of and what is recorded of others in the past, either by location, all the different abilities that are recorded, we now can account for it with quantum physics.
mm,
And we can actually reenact it in a lab to some extent. So we know that we now know how shamans can channel plant spirit medicine, animal spirit medicine. This has been legitimized through science. And I think that science is all science is studying something and then having a common language to describe it. That's all it is. And it makes people feel comfortable.
mm-hmm. And putting it in a framework that seems reasonable, right? And somewhat trustworthy, even though still limited in some degree. But yes, I love that. So I think there is a opportunity for those who, like us, our schooling and early education were very similar, went to school together, to a Christian school at that, and had a similar path with religion, had a similar path with leaving religion, and then had a similar path with awakening and being guided by something beyond the norm, to step into and clarify and hear what we're here to do. So I would love to know what full circle moments have occurred for you when it comes to looking at your past and your childhood and seeing perhaps how that served you now. Do you see any benefit and value to that journey and how it prepared you for what you're doing now? Or do you feel like, well, that was more of a contrast so I could access what I'm doing now, or both? Can you speak to that?
Yes. And you and I have talked about this. And I think that one aspect of this, we had the same experience, and that is the compression of our upbringing is, and I'll borrow what you shared because it matched what was in my heart. It taught me what being fully separated in my mind from God and others felt like. Separation feels yucky. It feels scary, isolating, um, and lonely. And the unworthiness aspect that came with the religious package was difficult. You have to sweat really low to jump really high.
Hmm.
You you have to work out and be highly uncomfortable to grow. And to be fully immersed in a belief system that I'm not sure if our school was evangelical, but it was pretty close. I mean, they weren't teaching that the world was 6,000 years old. Some teachers believed that, but um, to come from such a narrow view of what God is and to come from a place where the mantra of the school at the time was that children are born broken and it was up to the teachers to help correct. When you're told that, that doesn't feel good. And as an adult, I can look back and pull from that experience. And the amount of empathy that I have is vastly different than what it would have been had I not experienced those things. And I think that your typical wounded healer, the more wounded they are, the more powerful they are with their healing because they have an ocean inside to pull from, to relate to.
Mm,
And if I had not been raised that way, I would not have the gift of exquisite pain to draw from, to be able to relate and to appreciate to the full depth that I can what I'm looking at, working with, teaching about law of polarity.
mm. It's beautiful.
I don't think I could have expanded as far had I not been compressed so tightly.
Love that. Love that. As you're speaking, the compassion, sensing that vibration as well.
Mhm.
Because I do think that humanity has experienced that. Like that's a microcosm of the macrocosm, right? And that we're here to appreciate, understand, be present for that transformation, which leads me to the next part, the new human. What I've been hearing very clearly is not that it hasn't always been here, but that we get the opportunity to be the new human. We get the opportunity to be that demonstration that you were talking about, and that many of us are awakening. Many of us are casting off the limited, conditioned ways of thinking and being that we've been sold as the solution. And and thankfully, with that comes what you're helping usher in and educate um, the power and the perfection of creation and how we get to work with it, right? And how it's there for us. um, but also the power within us. I feel like that's the other, um, and they're not different. That's the irony, right? The power within us is the power that you're talking about, but it looks like it's outside of us yet and still because we don't know who we are, right? We forget. But all of that to say, um, what are you hearing and feeling when? Because you touched on it, like uh, Yeshua, Jesus, whatever name you want, however you want to pronounce it, and those abilities that I always remember seeing that scripture, New Testament scripture, nonetheless, of saying you can do these things and more, even greater of what I've done. Right? I'm like, where the folk doing that? Sign me up. So
Yeah.
it's like, what are you hearing? Um, do you feel like the work you're doing now is part of that? And what else are you hearing and being called to? I think that might lead to that second offering that we were talking about.
Getting the conditioning out of the way to be able to receive is step one. And within that, the identification of it, there are steps. It is very different to, we have to unweave what's been woven into us and we've been convinced that is part of us, but is not. And the fastest way to do that is to reprogram the subconscious. And there are ways to reprogram it in each brainwave state. My friend Jennifer and I, our favorite thing is to do exercises together to get rid of our conditioning. I mean, we're just devoted to it.
Can I come?
I'm
Can I come?
yes, we just love it. And she went to Emory here. She's from Atlanta. She lives in the Keys now, but she went to Emory for psychology. And I got certified in QHHT, which is um, hypnosis, quantum healing hypnosis technique. And I've been doing that about 6 years. The two of us will practice on each other and help each other heal. And what we found is a sweet spot in each brainwave state that rapidly reprograms our subconscious for healing. And what we did is we just distilled it down to 5 practices. So there is a sleep hypnosis that's mantras. There's a breath work with mantras. There's a yoga nidra meditation with an archetype, which I can get into. And then there's journal prompts. And then there's just straight up mantras so that you can reprogram your mind through repetition. You can reprogram your mind through your theta state as you're falling asleep or while you're meditating with the yoga nidra. And we have one of each of those in each package. And then it's archetypal healing, meaning we have attached that as a digital product, which sounds like it cheapens it somehow to call it a product, but it's a package and offering of these 5 practices that are pain or trauma specific. And the way that we organize them is we brought back this ancient practice of dark goddess meditation. So we learned dark goddesses they weren't worshiped, they were meditated with. It's an ancient form of shadow work. So they would meditate with the dark goddess. So if you were working through rage and your voice being silenced, you would be walking the path with Medusa. And you would have a Medusa statue and you would meditate because it allows you to put your pain in a box and hold it outside of yourself. Sound familiar? So that you're not as attached to it. You can identify with her mythology and her story, and you can feel safe because she walked the path already and you meditate with her, but it allows you to put a box around exactly what to focus on so that you can do it with speed and efficiency. So we have a different package of those 5 things per goddess, per pain point. So if you know what you're struggling with, you can work with that package and reprogram yourself really rapidly.
Beautiful.
And we priced it in a way where anybody could do it. I mean, it's $47. It's just like, how do we get the best content so that everybody can try this? And whatever goddess you're drawn to, as far as the mythological story, whatever you relate to, like you have a favorite Marvel superhero, there's a reason, right? So if you have a mythological fascination, there's a reason there. You see yourself in it somehow, or you see what you believe you have missing and you want it back. And so you're attracted to it. So whichever thing you are attracted to, that is source flowing through you, showing you through preference where to go to heal.
Isn't that interesting? I'm feeling that so resonantly. Even though I'm not thinking about the dark goddess, I'm like, which one am I attracted to? And all of a sudden I feel Thor. I'm like, what? Thor? It's like, oh yeah, because he's got the father, he's the son, right? And he's got the power and he's a little crazy and energetic. I'm like, that is me all the way. It's like I resonate, right? And one thing I'll just say, I hear when I align with the source of life, I hear it as the Father. And it's come to me as the Father and let me know it's the Father of all fathers, right? It's the essence of who we are and we're one with it, but it also represents as the Father for me. It speaks much like Yeshua talked about, right? Or was quoted to have said. And so that's how I, like every day when I'm listening, I hear from that highest self, from that source, the I am, my son. That's how it talks to me. So I love that. And relate to the mythological side of that too. But let's get to emotion and energy. So with the work you're doing, one of the things I've heard is with this practice of aligning, expanding our awareness, aligning with the source, being able to choose differently, right? Being able to access different levels of consciousness, undoing these blocks, working with the source energy. The next level, what I hear is mastery of energy and emotion. And so talk about how your work is assisting with that
Mm,
or what you've seen with that.
I've never thought of it. So to make sure that I'm understanding what you're asking,
Mhm.
mastery of motion, of
Emotion, I'm
energetics,
sorry. Energy and
motion.
emotion, yes.
Okay. Yes. And then the question surrounding that, can you ask me in a different way so I
Absolutely.
know I understand?
So with your current work, how are you seeing that play out? That mastery of energy and emotion. Are you seeing that the work you're doing is empowering others to step into that?
Oh, okay. So the short answer is yes.
And how so would be the next question.
Our our emotions have been measured and they're on a Hertz scale, a logarithmic Hertz scale. And each frequency on that scale, say gratitude, which we mentioned earlier, is 500 Hertz, bliss is 1,000 Hertz, shame is 20 Hertz. Frequency is what controls the behavior of matter in our dimension. In our dimension. That's why if light is a certain frequency, it's always a certain color. If a flavonoid is a certain frequency, it always smells exactly like something.
Mm.
Frequency dictates the behavior of matter. So to answer your question, the way that I am seeing that play out is that as clients go through and friends who I play with to grow, as we go through repatterning our subconscious, it repatterns the types of chemicals that our brain is producing on a regular basis. So, for instance, if you do mindfulness meditation for 30 days, it repatterns your subconscious and will literally cure anxiety until you start going back into the same thought patterns that produce those chemicals in the first place. And then it's a self-replicating issue. So your emotions, when you have an emotion, it is your brain guessing as to what is occurring outside of your body through your five senses and your energy field. And it is producing an emotional cocktail so that you can respond in the best way that you are able to, which is then filtered through your memory, which then creates thinking. And feelings are a secondary instance of an emotion. So if you are traumatized, your instinct when you're triggered, your emotion is your body says, "Ooh, I don't think you can handle this. So you're going to experience fear or anxiety. So you run away so that you'll survive because your subconscious doesn't know anything to do other than to keep you alive in the moment." So if you are smoking, it feels good because you are inhaling nicotine and you get a high. And yes, if you keep doing it, you'll die, but it feels good in the moment. And again, the subconscious is only keeping you alive in the moment, and it's a pleasure seeker. In the long run, you'll die, but your subconscious doesn't know that. So when we are triggered, it's because we have a distorted view of ourselves based on a trauma. And then it's filtered through the memory, and then it produces feelings, which then echo back to you in your self-talk what that subconscious trauma is. And then it's just reinforced. And then you just believe it's part of you, and you're within yourself, and you sustain it until you break the pattern. And the way to break the pattern is through mantras, through repetition, or subconscious work through meditation in your theta and delta brainwave states to repattern that. And that too takes repetition. And when you can alter the frequency of your emotions and you can literally choose which emotions you want to focus on, those compress into matter in your body and it heals disease. And we see this over and over and over again. And it's something that's been heavily documented, and we can actually measure how this happens. You can heal yourself with your thoughts. And that really is what you were talking about earlier about choice. Choice is our superpower. You can choose that you want to feel a certain way without repressing your trauma. Sitting with the trauma is the dissolving agent. And when you dissolve the trauma, your frequency gets a bump up. And then you dissolve the next trauma and your frequency gets another bump up. And as you clear out your nervous system and your fascia, your frequency keeps rising. Therefore, your emotions keep rising in frequency and your feelings rise in frequency, right? The rising tide raises all ships. Same thing in your body's ecosystem. So absolutely, I see that in this work, how emotion and frequency are completely intertwined and that we control it. And that whole idea of separation, as outside, so inside, we believe we're separated from ourselves on a subconscious level to believe that we can't change things. But we can.
That's right. So everything you said, I love. The two things I'll say before the question is one, the expansion. Like as we're raising our frequency, it doesn't go one direction, right? Like it's that integration you and I talked about where just as a tree is growing higher, the roots are also growing higher. So what I've experienced personally is we as we're raising these higher frequencies, just like you talk about law of polarity, we have to become accustomed to being present with the trauma and with the lower frequencies. Like it's they go together. You can't just reach for the sky and forget the root or it won't last, right? But that brings integration and that brings wholeness to the experience. And then the more we're able to hold that and expand our awareness into that, the more we're experiencing the breadth and the width of what is, what's for us. And we're able to flow with it and receive its gifts, because there's gifts in the low and the high, but we get stuck on thinking just the high is it, right? And so I love the fact that you mentioned being able to hold both is the way I see it in both hands, like the trauma being present while being present with that beautiful expansive light and joy. When we can do that, we can choose the middle way, right? We can play however we want. So, the question I was going to ask, energy. So you mentioned frequency, you mentioned emotion. How does energy play a part in all of this for you and what you've seen?
What form of energy specifically?
Oh, well, not just source energy, but energy in general. Because I think so the way I look at it is source energy is the root of it, and it takes all these different forms, right? And we call it this, that, and the other, but really, it could be whatever. So what, this is more of an exploration. Are you seeing some sort of interplay with the energy, with what you've described as far as working with the frequencies, as far as learning to choose, be present with, and master our ability to not only accept what arises, but create what we intend? Have you seen anything scientifically around energy, and how does that play a part? Like, I don't have the words for it. I just know I feel it. Right.
So playing with energy, there are 4 wave types that we are able to entrain with to restructure ourselves. And then there's a 5th type, but it's not a wave. It's a standing energy pattern called a scalar wave or a Tesla wave that runs through our dimension and beyond. So the 4 wave types that we're able to entrain with intentionally are sound waves, which you know about very deeply. Sound waves, which are mechanical. There's electricity. Our thoughts are electric. We can entrain with electricity. That's why a TENS machine works for pain reduction. We can entrain with light, the electromagnetic spectrum. And we see different frequencies within that spontaneously heal us. For instance, red light therapy. And we can choose what to entrain with. So we've got sound, electricity, electromagnetic, and scalar. And then we have magnetic, excuse me. So there's magnetic, electromagnetic, sound, and scalar waves. So because we are literally immersed in medicine, we could ambiently heal ourselves just sitting here, but we haven't learned how yet. But we're starting to, as a species, figure it out on the whole, right? And we all learn from each other at every moment. So we figured out that 600 to 700 nanometers of infrared light can spontaneously heal us. So we created a way to mimic that in lasers. You also can get the same treatment walking for 17 minutes during the golden hour or laying in front of a campfire for a few days. You get the same dosage. And it heals your bones. This is not child's play. That's a frequency that heals.
Wow.
Yes. And then we also have sound waves, 40 hertz. Sound wave repairs damaged tissue reliably. And if you go to YouTube and play it on your phone, it won't work. The cell phones cannot replicate true 40 hertz, but something very fascinating. Mongolian throat singing produces 40 hertz. So if you know of one,
I do know
invite them to your
my nephew.
invite them to your sound circle, because if you've got a wound, that heals it. Other frequency medicine that we can entrain with comes in the form of fibers. So for instance, cashmere Wool or linen is 5,000 hertz. It's also antimicrobial and antibacterial. So if you have a wound on one hand and an identical wound on the other hand, like say you grab something hot and you sear your palms, if you have a linen bandage on one hand and a synthetic or cotton bandage on the other, the linen bandaged wound will heal 2 to 4 times faster because of the energetics introduced. So because we can choose what we entrain with, that means that also if we're not choosing, it's being chosen for us. So we are being programmed in every moment of every second, of every nanosecond. We're being programmed. And unless we choose what to program ourselves with, society is programming us. And we don't even know. And it isn't society per se, just the social aspect. It's what society is creating. All of our technologies, what we're accepting, what we're tolerating. Do you live near a dump and your air quality is poor? Do you live near power lines? Are you getting EMFs? Is it scrambling and messing up, damaging your DNA? We know like radiation, this damages our DNA. That's a frequency. That's an electromagnetic frequency that we're in training with that's damaging our DNA. There's frequencies in all the chemicals that we're drinking in our water. You know, fluoride got a bad rap. Fluoride as a stone in small amounts is fantastic to rebuild calcium. So I think it was well intentioned when it was introduced, but too much, it's a metal. I mean, it's a stone. It's a stone. It's too much for our systems. We're getting overwhelmed with it. And then you build up an allergy, essentially. But it looks different when you have an allergy to a stone than it does to a plant. You're not going to get hives. You're just going to get stagnant energy. So, and we can choose what to entrain with that we put on our bodies. Our skin, for instance, needs vitamin A, C, E, and K. Well, it also needs 4 stones to rebuild itself. Our skin's made out of stone also. People don't realize we need copper, zinc, silica, and selenium. And then we need a host of phytonutrients as well. Each of those metals is conducting energy. Copper is what helps our biological energy move through our body. If you eat the right amount of copper in your diet, it makes it a lot easier to meditate and a lot easier to guide your emotions. You have to have, that's why they say eating right. Essentially, you're introducing the stones that your body needs to conduct itself efficiently because you're also a battery. We are a lot of things. One of them is a battery. We have an energy body, we have a karmic body, and those are running off of the physical, the chemical, and the energetics of what we're made out of, which is what we're eating. So yes, energy is everything. And emotion is your rudder or your map to steer yourself and know where you're going. And if you are letting the emotion wag the dog, right? The tail wagging the dog, no, you choose how you feel. And if you choose how you feel, you will never go wrong. In that, the way you're choosing to feel is where you are in your journey, and you have to experience that to grow. So maybe if you choose to feel negative, maybe you're addicted to negative emotions. They're very addicting. Mm-hmm. You follow that until you're done. And you know when you're done. If you're a smoker, smoke until you're done smoking, and then you'll stop smoking. If you're an alcoholic, drink till you're done drinking. You have to follow your karmic energy until you hit your choice point. And your choice point has everything to do with energy.
I want to explain what you just said is so true, but and for the listener that might not be tracking, I want to underscore it that then the way I hear it from this other level is the same thing, that we come here to suffer. We come here to experience suffering, and suffering is a noble teacher, and it's not a bad thing. Like we literally, it's part of the design. And we love it. That's, we love the suffering. And then there's a desire to opt out of the suffering. And as we suffer, that desire to opt out increases until it eclipses the desire to suffer, right? The love of suffering, once eclipsed by the desire to opt out of suffering, is when we choose differently. We seek and find. and was like, okay, I've had enough. So everything you just said, if we can be present with, okay, you're clearly loving this addiction. You're clearly loving this. Be present. I had a beautiful friend that works with Course in Miracles and had a son. She's on one of the interviews where she was tuning in and hearing, let him do it. Give him a safe environment to practice his drugs, his heroin addict, all this stuff. She's like, well, better than that, than just find him dead somewhere, right? And he finally moved through it and came out on the other end. Now, there was no guarantee that was going to happen, and she really leaned into trust. But she created the environment where she could be present and he could be present to do not enabling in some sick way, but in a way that was divinely guided. And all I can say is everything you said about that, the alcohol, the smoking, the whatever it is, to be present with it. Listen, if you're tuning in, oftentimes you can hear what's yours to do. You can hear, and you'll be surprised that yours to do may be to continue in that path, surprise, surprise, until you've had enough. So yeah, I love that you said that. I totally agree. And it matches what I hear as well. So I know we're just about out of time. I want to go back and just revisit, the two offerings we talked about. That shadow work, I also wanted to emphasize, the dark goddess shadow that you mentioned. I've had similar, and we talked about it, experiences of going into these things that I would normally push away, and the invitation is to integrate. And it sounds like the tools you're doing is doing the same thing in this wonderful way that is sort of been lost, and bringing it back to people to say, hey, guess what? Here's a tool that works fast and that really does work. I've experienced it myself, in a different way. So can you talk about those two offerings one more time? We're going to put them in the description so people know how to get to them, and also what they can expect, like once they sign up, anything they need to know logistically.
Sure. So mirrormedicines.com is the dark goddess shadow work. And we launched with one package. We just launched with Medusa, but we have 6 more coming. And what you can expect is doing an inward journey where you feel completely supported, and it takes all the guesswork out of it. You know exactly what to do, and you can reprogram rapidly in every brainwave state. And it's on your own time. It really is. And if you choose to just do the sleep hypnosis at first and heal in your sleep until the trauma is mutable, and you can then handle dealing with it in a mantra state in alpha or beta, that's fine. We give you every tool to tackle it however you are emotionally comfortable.
So the aha I just had is these tools come in different modalities, essentially, right? And you can use them, like the sleep one, for example. I guess there's a meditation one, in other modalities that you can pick and choose what works for you. Is that right?
Yeah, well, they all work for everybody. It's just where you want to start. So some people have wounds that are so deep that they can't even feel into them. Their body has protected them. So then you would start with breath work, because that's somatic. So you start with the breath work mantra, where you breathe in with saying a mantra audibly, and breathe out saying a mantra audibly. And within 5 breaths, it automatically drops you into heart-brain coherence. And with the repetition of the words, you can retrain yourself physically. And then you're able to then experience what you need to experience. So once you've teased it out, then that night you can use the sleep hypnosis, which then reinforces it with the mantras. And then once you're a little more healed and you can deal with it in beta, then you use the yoga nidra, and then you can start to journal and really, really sit with it once you somatically have come to a place of safety.
Wow.
But each goddess, each pain heals you in each brainwave state through 5 modalities, but for the same pain.
Okay, so there's sort of a sequential way to do it. Okay. And then the second offering, can you speak to what to expect there? Anything important?
Oh, sure. If you look in the mirror and you wish you looked 10 years younger, and you want to do it naturally or 15 years younger and you want to literally regenerate your skin and heal emotionally, then that's for you. That package is for you. I teach you everything that you need to know to regenerate your skin. And my clients look like they've had a facelift. You can go to the website and look for yourself. I work with you for 90 days. There are the 3 master classes that are self-led. So you go at your pace and then you work with me for the custom oil blend. And we get down to the day what your schedule is and what you need to be doing to regenerate your skin. So you're going to do it through botanical oils, 7-minute face massage, and then expect 20 minutes of meditation a day. You can do it when you're going to sleep or before you get up, so you can squeeze it in if you're too busy. And then there is the face yoga. And the face yoga you can do in the car. You can squeeze it in. You can find ways to squeeze it in. Do plan on spending 40 minutes a day on your skin for the first 90 days. And then you're on autopilot. It's regenerated and it takes minimal effort to maintain it.
Love that. And if I can, I'm going to put in some before and after shots into the post editing. We'll see what happens.
Yes.
If not, make sure you go to the website and the details, check them out for yourself. What I love about that, I know many who go through the process of maturing, more time on the planet and start to see their faces change. My wife called them, she introduced me to the word jowls. I'd never heard of jowls. I'm like, what's jowls? I just didn't grow up hearing about them. And then she started pointing them out. Funny story is, I believe she made up the word. I was like, there's no such thing. We looked it up. I was like, oh my God.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Such thing. It was so
you can reverse them even through into 70.
That's amazing. Yeah.
You don't need to have them. And all you do is you just build the muscle up because the muscle is atrophying because your expression is compressing it in a certain way over and over and over through your lifetime. And you're not working out in every direction. You have 40 muscles in your face. So they atrophy in the ways that you don't use them. So all you have to do is work them out and get them plump and it goes right back. Your skin and your muscles want to be perfect. And when you give them the environment and instruction, they are. So you don't need Botox. You don't need fillers. You don't need a facelift. You don't. You can do it yourself.
I love that. So that's it. So empowering, so balanced, and who knows what going the other route sometimes have their side effects and things like that. This is just natural. So I love that. It's a answer to, I think, many listeners' requests, both subconscious requests from their soul as well as, conscious requests of finding something like that. So can't wait to share that with everyone. Thank you so much, Laura, for surrendering to the gifts you're here to bring, because I know that unconditioning process, that releasing the limitations isn't comfortable. I know that sometimes it can be scary and uncertain. You know what I'm saying? But
messy.
It's so rewarding. Oh my God, it's so rewarding. And people are waiting for it, So thank you for answering the call, showing up. Just so really grateful to reconnect and see the work you're doing and get to help share it with the world. So thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you, John.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, make sure to check out what resonates with you on these wonderful offerings. I love to see the transformation. So share the transformations and the experiences after you've taken the 90 days and gone through this or what have you. Please do share them and share them with others as well. Let them know what's available and what's emerging as we step into the new human together, as we take back our power and as we witness the perfection of life. Thank you again for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next episode. Until then, much love to you all. Peace, everyone.